Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good in the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Rafe, and I would love to say I'm going solo, but it's even better than going solo because I have a big brain smart head in the studio with me, in the virtual studios with me today. It is going to be a great show because with me is none other than America's favorite rocket scientist, Bob Luzenski. Bob, how are you?
Rafe, I'm doing great as always, and happy again to be back here in the virtual studio recording another episode of The Buff.
This is of the wonderful things that I'm glad we get to do. Having experts in their fields on the show with us is always wonderful. This is just a great thing here, and that's a great thing we get to do here at the Buff. And but Bob, before we get to more things, I gotta. This is the listeners are everything here to us. And I want to give a shout out to them. Because of them, we are a global top 10% podcast. As always, they can reach us at bufnagle at bufnagle.com. We want to encourage you to hit the smiley star button or the like button or the thumbs up or whatever that is. Hit the subscribe, tell a friend to listen, get a free episode. And just remember, you are our marketing arm. So tell your friends to share the love, share the buff, and get great content from folks like America's favorite rocket scientist, Bob Luzenski. Bob, we talked in March about things that we like to talk about, rockets and eclipses, and we're going to do more of that today as part of our year-long countdown to the big eclipse going across the U.S. But there's some other things happening in that realm, so tell us what we got tonight.
Well, we've got a few things we can talk about. There's some follow-up from the previous episode back in March. We've had some events happen that we'd alluded to back then. For example, the SpaceX big rocket, the Starship Super Heavy, they call it, actually had its first flight in April 20th. And excitement was guaranteed, and it was exciting for as long as it lasted. And
okay, so walk me through this again, because I'm remembering this now. Is the SpaceX group decided that's Elon Musk's group, right? That's
he's the owner.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So because I think of it like there's the Elon Musk / SpaceX group, and then there's the Bezos / Blue Horizon, right? Group.
Yeah, and I try to not think of it that way.
Okay.
I try to avoid thinking about it as personalities because it takes more than one person to actually do the amazing things that SpaceX has done.
And this is not a knock at the people doing the work but I know people do refer to it that way. So I want to make sure
Sure.
But it Blue Horizon's the other group, right?
Blue Origin.
Thank you. See, this is why.
It's why I'm here. Keep you straight.
Right. And then there's NASA, which is NASA, right? Okay. And
National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Yes. And they've been around since about the time we came
50s.
on board.
Yes. Late 1950s.
We are like NASA in age.
Yes. Very similar.
Yeah.
I am actually very similar.
But the SpaceX group had their biggest rocket yet, right? And this thing went up and had a spectacular.
Sure, it was. Okay. Yeah, it was the first flight of this rocket, and the only guarantee they made was that excitement was guaranteed. It's a very large rocket. The first stage, called the Super Heavy, I believe is something like 70 meters tall. It has 33 engines in it. When the launch occurred, 3 of the engines went down immediately, which is all they could afford to lose. And then while it was ascending, several more engines went out on the first stage, and things got worse from there. Then they lost the ability to steer the rocket. And then they actually fired the safety system to destroy the rocket, and it didn't actually destroy the rocket, which is a really bad thing.
Yeah.
And eventually, though, the rocket came down far enough and was tumbling. When it got back down into the thicker atmosphere, it did finally break up. So, go ahead.
Yeah, because of the aerodynamic forces on it.
Yes, it was spinning. It was not going pointy end forward. It was going all kinds of ends forward.
And they launched this. Where was this launched? It was over water eventually, right?
Their launch site is down at the southernmost tip of the coast in Texas, just north of the border with Mexico.
Right.
And so the rocket was flying out over the Gulf of Mexico.
Right. Okay.
And so when we talked last time about the fact that each of these commercial launches needs a license from the FAA to actually conduct the launch.
Yep.
Well, and the other half of that is when you have a mishap, and this could very easily be classified as a mishap.
Yeah.
Because in addition to all the wild fun after it left the launch pad, it also left a giant hole underneath the launch pad, where the concrete base below the milk stool basically shaped launch pad, that concrete all went flying, and they were not
expecting that. Or maybe somebody was.
That's an interesting question. But anyways, not to belabor this too much, but so a lot of stuff happened. And when there's a mishap, the FAA requires an investigation. And so the company has to do an investigation and then provide a report to the FAA, which includes corrective actions.
Right.
And until that report and the corrective actions are approved, the company can't fly that rocket again. So
that rocket, meaning that design.
Yes. So we've been in a period for the past 6 months where basically SpaceX has been working corrective actions, including fixing the launch pad, which apparently they had plans to do before the launch. So they didn't think that the concrete that they had underneath the pad was going to hold up very much, but they were thinking it was going to hold up for one launch, but it didn't really do that. So there's like, this is the concrete under the launch pad is the part of the earth that absorbs the blast, right? Is that? Yes, exactly. So you've got I don't even remember what the number is, and I certainly don't remember it's upwards of 10 plus million pounds of thrust. More. It's more than that, actually.
And it's gases that are pushing on the concrete, right?
Hot gases that are pushing on the concrete.
Yeah, what can go wrong?
Yeah. So it's taking it's basically the flames. The hot gases are propelled downward, and the rocket rides upward on those flames. So all that weight of the rocket is basically resting on the concrete through the medium of the flames coming out the back end of the rocket. That's kind of a high level physics description of it.
And I'm sure if we had Johnny Physics Head on here, he'd be like, well, technically, action, Newton's law. Okay,
there's people cringing right now, but that's okay. Yep. So anyways, so SpaceX has been doing corrective actions. They've made changes to the design of their rocket. They've been pursuing all this. They provided the report to the FAA. One of the things they added was basically an upside down shower head underneath the rocket to absorb some of the flames and dissipate them. Yes. That was also planned in advance of that first launch. And, but one of the things that does now is they got to have, they have to have buy-off from the Fishery and Wildlife Service, because we do have pollution laws,
Yes.
and the laws have to be followed. So
Yeah, I hear you.
that's what's going on there.
So they got that report written and submitted. Is that available online somewhere? You can read that, or is that?
I don't think that's public, as far as I know.
Okay.
So because there's proprietary information in there, and
Sure.
and so it's between them and the FAA, I think.
All right. Okay. So they launched that big rocket, and what you call it? Big heavy? What's it called?
Starship and Super Heavy. Starship's the upper stage that's meant to be reusable. They're both parts are meant to be reusable.
Yeah. Okay.
And they launched that, and they're hoping that they can get regulatory approval from the FAA soon.
To do it again
within the month of October, and they want to fly again.
So once they get approval, are they ready to go, or is that like they have to wait? Or
it depends on who you believe. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I love these couched answers.
I'm trying not to involve personalities in this. It depends on who you believe and the spin being placed on the statement.
Well, let's just put it this way: it won't be the next day, but it'd probably be longer. It'd be shorter than anything you and I could put together, but it's going to be longer than the next day. So
it's not happening tomorrow.
Okay, so they're still launching big things, and eventually this piece of rocketry is designed to. Is this part of the go to the moon thing?
Yes, this actually has a role. The Starship part actually has a role in the NASA Artemis missions to the moon, because SpaceX won the contract to build the lunar lander for the first couple missions, Artemis missions, to land on the moon, and a variant of the Starship will actually be the lunar lander. And so that this is part of the critical path, getting this rocket to work and fly, and then being able to do refueling of the upper stage in orbit. So yes, the Starship Super Heavy, SpaceX's Starship Super Heavy rocket is on the critical path to NASA's plans to land on the moon.
All right. Now, is there competition right now to get more people on the moon? Is China doing a thing like that, or is Europe? Am I hearing that?
China has a stated goal to land people on the moon as well. Okay. So you can turn that into a race if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious. I would like I'd heard that.
To see NASA go back to the moon, having watched the first time back in the 60s.
I hear you.
I know you are still hurt because you missed out on that.
Yeah.
And you want to see that as well. So hopefully we'll see that. And in fact, since the last episode that you and I were on together, NASA has announced the crew for the Artemis 2 flight, which will not land on the moon, but it will go out and do a figure eight around the moon. So it will do one half of a loop around the moon and come back to Earth.
And is that 3 people?
4 people.
4 people. Okay.
Yep. That's coming up. NASA's official schedule is the November of next year, November of 2024. We'll see how closely they hold to that.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to launch it too soon. I'd rather wait a little bit and make it safe. Right?
Well, they have a lot they need to do to make this one be able to fly with people on board.
No, I got you. This is not brain surgery. This is rocket science, right?
It is rocket science.
All right. So that brings us to the other thing that's going to be happening. This episode should drop on or around the second weekend in October, and following the drop of this episode should be an eclipse of the sun, but a special kind of eclipse, an annular eclipse, and that will go across the United States, parts of Mexico, and parts of South America. But it won't be it will be awesome, but not the same kind of awesome as a total solar eclipse that we're planning to see in about 6 months.
Yes. So the annular eclipse is a type of central eclipse, like the total solar eclipse. And we
So
talked.
So
We
by
talked.
central,
Yes.
you mean that the moon will be centered, the disk of the moon will be centered on the disk of the sun?
Yes.
Okay.
So a partial solar eclipse is when part of the moon covers up part of the sun, but the moon doesn't completely, the whole moon doesn't cover up the sun. So that's a partial eclipse. A central eclipse can either be an annular eclipse or a total eclipse, and that depends completely on where the moon is in its orbit when the eclipse occurs. And why that matters is because the moon's orbit around the Earth is not a circle, it's an ellipse. And so there's a low point and a high point to that orbit.
And the Earth's orbit around the sun is not a circle, it's an eclipse.
It's an ellipse, not an eclipse.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes.
I got you, man.
Thank you. Okay. See, this is why you're on here. All right. So, and that's an ellipse as well. And there is a low point and a high point. And in each of those, actually, the sun is different sizes at different times of the year, and the moon is different sizes during its orbit.
And by different sizes, we mean different apparent size as viewed from the Earth. Yes, both those things are true.
So if you have the moon very far away, then it will look smaller.
From the Earth, yes.
From the Earth, it'll look smaller. And if we are very close to the sun will look big. And it's possible to put the ring, or I guess the circle of the moon in front of the circle of the sun, but not cover it completely.
Yes. It's actually an incredible, amazing coincidence that the apparent size of the moon, that the moon orbiting the Earth and the sun that the Earth orbits around are so close to being exactly the same. It is an incredible coincidence. And there will come a day, because the moon's orbit is slowly getting farther and farther away from Earth. There will come a day when there won't be total solar eclipses anymore.
Now,
it's a long time from now.
We're talking like hundreds of thousands of years or
longer
more?
than that.
Longer
and
than that. Okay.
We don't have to worry about that. So,
right. In fact, this podcast will probably not still be in existence at that time.
I'm guessing that's probably true. So yeah, it's actually, and of course, the reason that the moon's orbit is slowly, gradually getting farther away is because of the interaction with the Earth and the tides on the Earth, and that has a slowing effect on the moon in its orbit. And so as it slows, it gets farther away. It's just I just thought I'd throw that out there as an aside.
Whether you're chasing eclipses or flying in rockets in outer space, you always need to stay hydrated, and you need to get your nutrition. And one of the best ways to do that is to drink a smoothie. But in order to drink a smoothie, you need a smoothie blender. And the best smoothie blender out there is the BlendJet 2. The BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. It lasts for 15 or more blends and recharges itself quickly via USB-C. And best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend some water with a drop of soap, and you are good to go. And with over 30 colors and patterns to choose from, there's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style, regardless of what kind of eclipse you're looking at or what kind of rocket you're riding in. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the blendjet.com link in our description below and grab yours today. Be sure to use the promo code bufnagle to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to the blendjet.com link in our description and use the code bufnagle to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever. So
yes, you can have circumstances where the moon is farther away from the Earth and the sun is closer, or some combination of that,
Right.
where the apparent size in the sky of the moon isn't quite big enough to cover up the sun.
And what you get is this, it's called an annulus. It's like a donut.
Yeah,
right?
It's an annular eclipse,
Mhm.
for the word annulus, which means round ring, I get, in Latin, I guess.
I always like to think of it means donut because then we get
Yes,
to talk
it's a
about
donut.
donuts. Yeah.
Well, and I know how much you like donuts.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so that's going to happen the morning of October 14th.
Morning, depending on where you are.
Right, morning in the U.S. So it's later in the day UTC.
Yes.
All right, and it's going to start landfall in Oregon in the U.S. in North America.
Yep. And it's going to move. It's going to move across the United States, cutting diagonally from northwest to south central, and it will exit. The shadow will exit onto the into the Gulf of Mexico, very near actually the SpaceX launch facility. I haven't looked at a detailed map to see how close it is, but it'll be very close to there. So that's that, and then from there it goes crosses part of Mexico, Central America, cuts into South America, and then goes off into the South Atlantic.
And then it disappears because it.
Well, that's the thing. It starts at sunrise somewhere, goes across the lighted side of the Earth because it's a solar eclipse, and the shadow then exits at sunset somewhere along that side. And it's only over the course of a few hours that the eclipse actually happens. So it starts in morning. So when you said in the morning, that actually depends on where you're standing.
Absolutely. And so it's going to make this path, and there won't be a path of totality, but there will be a path of complete ringiness or something. Complete.
Yes, exactly. So the path we're talking about this time isn't the path where the moon covers up the sun completely, but it's a similar size path, and it's where the moon is completely surrounded by the sun.
Right.
And that's a cool thing. I mean, the pictures of it are.
Have you been in one? Have you been in one?
I have not seen a. Well, now I'm trying to think about that. There was an annular eclipse. No, I've not actually been in the central path of an annular eclipse. I have seen an annular eclipse, but basically, if you're not in the central path, like in a total solar eclipse, if you're not in the central path of an annular eclipse, then it's a partial eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse.
So the moon goes partially across the face of the sun, and you get that thrill. But
it's interesting to watch, but it's not as exciting as we discussed last time, where we talked about all the different amazing sights to be seen for a total solar eclipse.
Right, and this is on October 14th, and this is like you said, in the west coast of the U.S., across Mexico and parts of South America. Now, because it's a solar event, it's a sun event, and you want to look in the sky, you should. Do we say it again, Bob? Don't look at the sun. You need to have some sort of eyewear.
Don't look directly at the sun. Yes. Yes. And what I want to talk about here is I will talk about safe ways to view the eclipse. I will not talk about unsafe ways to view the eclipse because I don't want it to give anybody ideas, or I don't want anybody to hear me say things and they're not listening that close, and then go turn around and say, well, America's favorite rocket scientist said this. Well, yes, that's true. I said it, but I said, don't do it. So instead of getting in that situation, I'm just going to not say those things.
That's a real see. That's why you have more wisdom in that realm than I do. So I would probably list these are the bad ways to watch it. But you're not going to do that.
I'm not going to talk about the bad ways to watch a solar
Okay, so
eclipse.
what are some safe ways? Okay, because you talked last time that you were in Canada for the total solar eclipse, and the local television station was saying,
Oh, you
I can't
remember
believe I'm
that?
going to read. I can't believe this actually happened. That you are going to that they encourage people to actually watch the eclipse on TV.
Yes, we had traveled from Michigan to the plains in Canada there west of Winnipeg to watch this total solar eclipse, and other people came from even farther, and to watch the total solar eclipse. And an hour before the eclipse, we'd caught up with one of our friends who was in a hotel, in the path of the eclipse, and was going to watch it from there. And we stopped in, and he had the TV on, and it was a commercial break, and it literally came on. The local channel came on and said, be safe, stay inside, stay indoors, and watch the eclipse with us. And we were all just like, no.
Well, okay, but that is a safe way to watch the eclipse, right?
It absolutely is. And you do have to be careful during the partial phases of the eclipse. But
not any more careful than any time you're looking at the sun, right? That's the whole
yes.
thing. There's nothing magical about the eclipse. It's not like magic rays come out during an eclipse.
No, magic rays do not come out. And I related the story of how my mom was worried about that, because that's what she believed. It was, you could go blind because there was an eclipse, not what in fact is you can go blind, or you can damage your eyesight more accurately if you stare at the sun, whether it's half covered or not covered.
Right. Okay, so you have safe ways to look at the eclipse, or to look at the sun for that matter.
Yes.
But I know a couple of those, but what are they?
Well, let's talk about, from the simple to the little more involved. One way to do it, and it's a do-it-yourself kind of thing, and it can be a fun project if you have kids, is make a pinhole camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
It's
really?
not the most exciting, but it's a project, right? You can do something like that.
Yeah.
And it involves either a box or two pieces of cardboard. And you take one piece of cardboard, you cut a hole out of it, and you then cover the tape aluminum foil over that, and you take a needle and you poke a needle hole into that. And then you have a piece of white paper on the other piece of cardboard. And then you can hold the one with the pinhole in front of the other one and aim it towards the sun. And you will get a projected image of the sun on the white piece of paper.
Yeah, and the point of using aluminum foil and white paper and cardboard is, well, it's cardboard because it's cheap, and it's aluminum foil because you can make a very nice clean hole through a very thin material, so you get very good, I guess, refraction or whatever light. You get light wavy stuff going through that aluminum very well.
You get a clean image on the
and
paper.
You get a better image. And then the white paper, because it's better than trying to read it off a pizza box. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah, right. Okay,
exactly.
That is like,
it's the cheapest, simplest. You can do it because you forgot until the day of the eclipse, and you go, "Oh my gosh, I want to see the eclipse." Yeah. The other way is to do something, and this gets done too. Is take a kitchen colander with all those little holes in it out, and just hold it in front of a piece of paper, and you'll get a bunch of little images.
like one for all your friends.
Yes, exactly. Not just one for you.
And they'll all be the same. They'll all look the same. Okay. Yeah. But better than that, you can actually do things where you see it like, and it looks, it's not like a little tiny image, because kids are dramatically underwhelmed by the pinhole camera image.
Sure.
Right.
And I'm going to say I was underwhelmed by it too when I did it.
Yeah.
But it's a way to do it, and it's safely. A safe way to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So another option is to use an appropriate level of welder's glass. So a number 13 or number 14 welder's glass, which you can get from presumably from a welder's supply store. I've never actually done it. I do have one of those, but I got that when I went on a Eclipse trip that I paid for, and they provided everybody with a welder's glass.
So you say it's a welder's glass, and was that it's like the whole helmet, or it's just like the piece of glass?
Just the little rectangular piece that would go in the helmet, and it's a piece of glass, and it's dark, but the appropriate level, and my recollection is a number 13 or a 14, and you can then directly view the eclipse by holding it up in front of your eyes and looking through it.
Through the glass. You have to look through the glass.
You have to look through the glass. And you get, now what's the downside of that in my mind is you get this greenish image. It's because that's the frequencies of light that are being, passing through.
So it's a tinting. It's like tinted windows. But it's very heavy duty.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say anything about tinting windows because I'm talking about safe ways to view the solar eclipse.
So don't use tinted windows. Use welder's glass and make sure it's the appropriate level, and you can find the appropriate levels.
So that's another option.
Store. Yeah,
and then of course there is the one that probably everybody is most familiar with, and that is the eclipse glasses. And these are cardboard, glasses that are flat, and you can fold them and, put them on your face like glasses. And they have two openings that are covered with a film material that is meant to attenuate the light from the sun to such a level that it's safe to view it. And those are readily available. There's several vendors, legitimate vendors that sell these. One that I have used is Thousand Oaks Optical in California. And in fact, back in the 2017 eclipse, actually going back to the 2012 eclipse, which was an annular eclipse. And I was in Colorado, so I was not in the path of the annular eclipse, but I was out west, and I did go out there. I chose that period of that week to go out because the eclipse was happening. And I just found a spot by myself to watch the eclipse as it was happening, because it was later in the evening towards sunset. In fact, the sun set while the eclipse was occurring. And I had my little green welder's glass, number 14 welder's glass. And I was there by myself and, just watching it. And somebody else pulled up, as often happens when, I'm watching sunset without a solar eclipse, and somebody else pulled up and they were like, "Hey, are you looking at the eclipse?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Here." And I handed him the welder's glass. I looked through this, and he took a look at it and was like, "Oh, cool." And then he got back in his car and drove off.
Boy.
and so that stuck in my mind. So when 2017 rolled around, and I thought, I want to share this with people, and I want people to, most people I know aren't going to go travel to the path of the eclipse. I mean, you were living just a few miles from the edge of the path of the eclipse, and you weren't even thinking about going to it until I insisted that you do. So, pretty much everybody else I knew wasn't going to go. But what I decided to do was I just bought I bought 250 of these eclipse glasses, and buying them in bulk like that, from, as I said, I used Thousand Oaks Optical. They were under $1 a piece when others were opportunistically selling them on, Amazon and stuff for $5 and $10 a piece. And I was giving them away, and I gave away most of them. I still have a small stack of them, for this coming event, but I gave them to all my family. I gave them to my friends. I gave them to neighbors. I even left a stack at work because I wasn't going to be at work that day. But I posted outside my desk. I posted information on the eclipse, and so that everybody who was at work that day. And I left a stack of after giving away as many as I could to people I knew, I still left a stack at my desk so that if anybody hadn't gotten one yet, they could grab one. And when I got back to work, I was told that a good chunk of the company was outside the building during the main, the deepest portion of the solar eclipse from that location, including like my boss's boss, the chief engineer. They were all out there watching with my eclipse glasses, and that was exactly what I had wanted to happen.
Well, that is a well, thanks, Bob, for doing that. On behalf of all the people who have received those glasses. I have a stack of them. I think I have 5 or 6 that you bequeathed to me.
Yes,
and I know exactly where they are. In fact, I pulled them out of that drawer on Sunday. Some friends came over and we were talking like, are you going to come up here for the eclipse? And they were like, what eclipse? And then we talked about that. And I said, if you come, I got glasses. And I reached in the drawer and I pulled them out. And Michelle, of course, rolled her eyes, said, oh, well, there are the glasses, But thank you for taking care of that. And if anybody wants to go out and be as philanthropic and altruistic as Bob is, go out and buy some of those glasses and give them to people so they can experience one of the grand spectacles of nature, at least either for the annual eclipse on the 14th or on April 8th, 2024, when the total solar eclipse crosses North America.
Yes.
So, all right. So you got 3 ways to do this safely: pinhole cameras, welder's glass, or eclipse glasses. And be wise with how you get those things so you maintain your eyesight, because that's another one of those miracles of the wonderful world that we live in.
Yes, it is.
So, did we cover all? Is that we've covered everything on? Holy cow! Look at this time.
So last time we were busting at the seams and didn't even come close to the last topic. Do you remember the last topic we had that we wanted to talk about? I do. I didn't until I was about partway through listening to that episode. I did listen to the episode today because it's been a while, and I just wanted to remind myself. And it was the whole AI thing we were going to talk about.
The AI thing. Well, okay, I thought of AI today, and I'm trying to remember I'm reading. Okay, this is coming up in a podcast, and we're prepping for it. A person who is nameless at the present time. We're prepping.
They don't have a name right now?
Well, they are nameless relative to this show.
Okay.
But we are going.
The audience doesn't know.
We are going to discuss Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Okay.
And as I was reading part of that, what popped into my head was all these things surrounding AI. And I guess, and a quote that came into my head today was, AI doesn't stand a chance. Artificial intelligence doesn't stand a chance against natural stupidity. And
well, I have a bigger concern that AI will learn the natural stupidity.
Well, I have, and there's some and I was thinking about, do you remember the movie? It was War Games with Matthew Broderick, right?
Yes. Great movie.
Okay.
Yes.
And remember at the end, they're teaching the computer how to play tic-tac-toe, and they're demonstrating to the computer that they're it's a no-win.
Yeah, it's a no-win situation. Yes.
Right. And then they try to get the computer to recognize the similarity between tic-tac-toe and global thermonuclear war. Yeah, because those are 2 things that are on the same.
Totally the same.
Right.
The only way to win is not to play.
Yeah, the only winning move is not to play. Right. And that's what they, and thank you to Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy and Gene. Was it Gene Hackman? Who's the other guy who
I can't remember.
The guy with the cheesy mustache, and he was in 9 to 5, and that guy. Thanks to those guys, they saved the world. And anyway, that was an AI thing, and you have to get the. Well, you got to. We will talk, Bob. We're out of time now, but we will have some more discussions on AI. And I have dabbled in some things regarding AI, and it's just like a lot of things. There's a lot of misconception. It's not going to save the world. It can do. Computers are really good at doing very inane tasks very rapidly without complaint.
Yes,
but.
My impression of it so far, just to summarize it very quickly, is it seems really good at making stuff up.
Okay, we will leave it at that. It can write. It does a very good job writing computer code. I'll tell you that.
That blows my mind. But that's again for another day.
Yeah. So we'll have that discussion. Well, this is great. We have a little. We've left a little cliffhanger for the future. October 14th, 2023, and April 8th, 2024. 2 eclipses, 1 annular, 1 total solar eclipse. Bob Luzenski, America's favorite rocket scientist. Thank you very much for coming on tonight.
It's, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bob. And to the rest of you, I remind you to seek the good, be the good, and spread the good, and enjoy the adventure of life.